At my daughter's wedding, she secretly slipped sedatives into my champagne. 300 witnesses watched what happened next. I'm Anna Brennan, 65 years old. I didn't stop her. I smiled, raised my glass, and let her drink the poison herself. If you're listening from somewhere far away, drop your city in the comments so I can see how far this has traveled. And please, stay with me until the end. The Fairmont Copley Plaza knew how to throw a wedding. Crystal chandeliers hung from 20-foot ceilings, casting warm light over tables draped in ivory silk. The kind of light that makes even ordinary people look extraordinary. 300 guests filled the grand ballroom. Boston's elite, old money mixing with new, the cream of New England society, all here to watch my daughter Maya marry into the Whitfield family. I sat at the head table, back straight, hands folded in my lap the way my grandmother taught me 60 years ago in Alabama. "Anna May," she'd said, "a lady sits like she's wearing a crown, even when she's got nothing but prayers in her pocket." Tonight I wore a navy dress, simple pearls, sensible heels. Nothing flashy, nothing that would outshine the bride. Maya looked radiant in her Vera Wang gown, laughing at something her new husband Marcus whispered in her ear. $28,000 for that dress. I knew because I'd signed the check without blinking. My baby girl, 35 years old, junior partner at Whitfield & Associates, marrying the senior partner's son. Everything about this night was perfect. The flowers, white roses and peonies, $15,000. The food, herb-crusted lamb, probably $200 per plate. The jazz ensemble, another $12,000. $100,000 total for this wedding. Worth every penny to see Maya this happy. Or was she? Something nagged at me, that mother's intuition that never quite goes away, even when your child is grown. Maya had been tense for months, ever since March when she'd stopped by my house unexpectedly and overheard a phone conversation. A conversation I'd been having with someone she didn't know existed. "Mrs. Brennan," a voice pulled me from my thoughts. Patricia Whitfield stood beside our table, smoothing her champagne-colored dress. Marcus's mother, old Boston money, the kind that whispers rather than shouts. What a lovely reception. "Thank you, Patricia." I smiled, the same smile I'd perfected over 40 years of business meetings where I was the only black woman in the room. Pleasant, professional, impenetrable. "Maya looks beautiful," Patricia continued, but her eyes said something else. They always did. For someone like her. For someone from her background. Patricia had never said it directly. She was too refined for that. But it was there in every interaction. "Maya is so articulate. Your daughter's hair looks much better straightened. Marcus is very progressive, each compliment wrapped around a knife. I'd dealt with women like Patricia Whitfield my entire life. Women who smiled while they calculated your net worth, who complimented your dress while dismissing your intelligence, who welcomed you to the table while making sure you knew you didn't really belong there. My phone buzzed against the tablecloth. Subtle, lost in the celebration noise, but I felt it. A text message from a number I'd saved 8 months ago. A number that shouldn't be contacting me during Maya's wedding. I picked up the phone, read it. 5 words in capital letters. "Your daughter drugged your glass." My heart stopped, then restarted with a painful thud. I read it again. The words didn't change. My best friend Lakeisha Washington sat beside me, her dark skin glowing in the chandelier light. We'd known each other since college, 43 years of friendship. She'd built her law practice from nothing, just like I'd built Brennan Industries. We understood each other in ways that didn't require explanation. "You look tense, girl," Lakeisha said, her voice low. "This is supposed to be a happy day." I didn't answer. My eyes moved to the champagne flutes on the white tablecloth. 2 identical glasses. Golden liquid, perfect bubbles. One of them poisoned. "Which one?" I glanced at Maya. She stood near the cake table, a 7-tier masterpiece wrapped in white fondant, decorated with handcrafted sugar flowers that took a team of bakers a week to create. $15,000 for that cake alone. Maya was talking to Patricia, but her eyes kept darting to those champagne flutes. Watching, waiting for me to drink. The realization settled cold in my chest, the way truth always does when you've been avoiding it. This wasn't impulse. This was planned. Let me take you back. Not to the beginning, that would take too long, but to 8 months ago, November, when my whole world shifted. I was in my corner office at Brennan Industries, reviewing fourth quarter projections. Rain streaked the windows. Boston in November. Gray, cold, unforgiving. My secretary buzzed. "Mrs. Brennan, there's a man on line 2. Says it's urgent, personal." I almost told her to take a message. Then she said the name. "Thomas Hayes. Says you'll remember." My hand froze on the pen. Thomas Hayes. I hadn't heard that name in 38 years. I picked up the receiver, my heart hammering. "This is Anna Brennan." "Anna." His voice came through weaker than I remembered, but unmistakable. "It's been a long time." 38 years, Thomas." My throat felt tight. "How are you?" A bitter laugh, then coughing. "Dying, actually. Pancreatic cancer, stage 4. Hospice. 2 weeks, maybe 3. The room tilted. "Thomas, I'm not calling for sympathy, Anna. I'm calling because I have something to tell you. Something I should have told you 38 years ago." My chest constricted. I knew. Before he said it, I knew. "When Catherine and I married, you were already pregnant. With my child." Everything stopped. The rain, the clock, my breath. "His name is Jordan," Thomas continued, his voice steady like he'd rehearsed this. "Jordan Hayes. He's 37 years old, a photographer, kind, talented, independent." A pause. "And he's your son, Anna. He's always been your son." I closed my eyes. 37 years. A lifetime. "That's impossible," I whispered. "You would have told me." "My family threatened to destroy you." Thomas's voice cracked. "My father, my brothers. They said if I chose you, a black woman, they'd make sure you never worked again in Boston. They'd ruin you. And when Catherine offered to raise the baby as hers, to give him the Hayes name, the protection of a white family," he broke off. "I was a coward, Anna. I chose the easy way. I let them take you from me, and I let them take our son." Rage bubbled up, hot and immediate. "You stole 37 years from me." "I know." He was crying now. "I know what I did. But I gave him life, Anna. I gave him a good home, a good education. I raised him to be a good man. And now, before I die, I want him to know his real mother. He deserves the truth. So do you." "Does he know?" "I told him 3 days ago. He's processing, angry, confused. But he's a good man, Anna, like you would have raised him to be." My forehead pressed against the cold window glass. Outside, Boston moved on, oblivious. Inside, my world was breaking apart. "Catherine never knew," Thomas added. "She died thinking Jordan was mine. Heart disease 5 years ago." Another pause. "Jordan's number is 617-555-0147. Call him, Anna. Please, before it's too late." "Thomas, I have to go now." His breathing had gotten labored. "The pain. The morphine isn't enough anymore." A long exhale. "I'm sorry, Anna, for everything. For the life you should have had. For the son you should have raised. But most of all, I'm sorry I wasn't brave enough to choose you." The line went quiet except for his breathing. Shallow, rattling. "Goodbye, Anna." Click. I stood there holding the phone until the dial tone turned into that obnoxious beeping. Then I set it down and sat in my leather chair, staring at nothing. I had a son. A 37-year-old son I'd never met, never held, never watched grow up. Thomas had stolen that from me. Or maybe he'd saved me from a harder life. Maybe both. 2 weeks later, Thomas Hayes died. I went to the funeral, sat in the back row of St. Catherine's Church in Charlestown. Small service, maybe 50 people, and there at the front, giving the eulogy, was a man I'd never met. Tall, broad-shouldered, light brown skin, somewhere between Thomas's paleness and my deep brown. Dark hair with gray at the temples. Standing with the kind of easy confidence that comes from knowing who you are. He talked about his father, about Thomas's love of carpentry, his terrible jokes, his quiet generosity. His voice was steady. No tears, just quiet dignity. And when he turned to look out at the mourners, I saw it. My eyes. The same dark brown eyes I saw every morning in the mirror. My grandmother's eyes. Thomas's smile, but my eyes. Jordan, my son. The DNA test came back 99.9% match. I had a son I never knew existed. 1 week after burying the man he thought was his father, Jordan agreed to meet me. Café Algiers in Cambridge. Neutral territory. Mid-December, 2 weeks before Christmas. The cafe had strung lights in the windows, but they felt garish against the gray slush outside. I arrived 30 minutes early, ordered black coffee I didn't drink, sat in a corner booth rehearsing opening lines that all sounded hollow. I'm sorry didn't cover 37 years. I didn't know sounded like an excuse. Let me explain implied there was an explanation that would make any of this okay. At 2 o'clock exactly, the door opened. Cold air rushed in. And there he was, 6'2", broad shoulders under a worn canvas jacket, dark hair, some gray at the temples, jeans and boots, a camera bag slung over one shoulder like it was part of his body, and my eyes staring back at me from a stranger's face. He saw me immediately, crossed the cafe in 4 strides, didn't offer his hand. "I'm Jordan. Anna." My voice came out rough. "Thank you for coming." He slid into the booth across from me, ordered coffee from the server without looking at the menu. When she left, he just sat there, studying me, taking in every detail like he was cataloging them. "You look like the picture Thomas kept," he said finally, "hidden in his workshop. I found it when I was cleaning out his things. You were young, maybe 27, standing in front of some construction site, smiling." "I didn't own anything back then," I said quietly. "I was working 3 jobs just to keep the lights on." "Yeah, well, you do now." He gestured vaguely. "Brennan Industries, manufacturing and logistics. I Googled you. Net worth estimated somewhere north of $40 million. The number hung in the air between us." 37 years, Jordan said. His voice was level, controlled, but I heard the anger underneath. "You had 37 years you could have spent looking for me. Birthdays, graduations, teaching me to ride a bike. All of it gone." "I didn't know, Jordan." The words felt inadequate. "Thomas never told me. I swear to God, if I'd known—" "What? You'd have fought Thomas Hayes for custody? A black woman against old Boston money with lawyers?" He shook his head. "Thomas told me why he did it. He said his family would have destroyed you. Maybe he was right, maybe he was wrong. But he's dead now, so we'll never know." His coffee arrived. He doctored it with cream and sugar, mechanical, like he was buying time. "Why did you agree to meet me?" I asked. "Because Thomas asked me to. Last thing he said before the morphine took him under for good. Meet your mother. Give her a chance." "So here I am, giving you a chance?" "I want to help," I said. "Whatever you need. Money for your business, a house, equipment." "Stop." The word came sharp. "I don't need your money. I don't want it. Jordan, I've survived 37 years without Anna Brennan's money. I'll survive the rest just fine." He leaned forward. "I built my photography business from nothing. From nothing. No family money, no connections, no handouts. Just work. And it's successful. I'm successful. On my own." The emphasis on those last 3 words cut deep. "Then what do you want from me?" He sat back, studied his coffee. When he looked up, something in his expression had softened. Just slightly. "I don't know yet. Maybe nothing. Maybe just answers about who you are. Why Thomas loved you enough to carry guilt for 37 years. If you're worth knowing." "That's fair," I said. He pulled out his phone, scrolled through photos, turned the screen toward me. Landscapes, portraits, weddings, each one stunning, professional, the kind of work that spoke for itself. "This is what I do," he said. "This is who I am. Not your heir, not your replacement child. Just Jordan, a photographer who happens to share your DNA." "It's beautiful work," I said. "Really." "I know. No arrogance, just fact. I'm good at what I do." We sat in silence. The cafe hummed around us. Other conversations, other lives, other people whose worlds hadn't just shattered and reformed. "Can I buy you coffee?" I asked finally. "Next week, same time, same place, just to talk." He considered long enough that I thought he'd say no. "I'm not calling you Mom," he said. "I'm not taking your money. And I'm not replacing Catherine Hayes, even if she wasn't biologically mine. She raised me. That counts for something." "I understand. But coffee once a week." He paused. "We'll see where it goes." "Thank you." He stood, pulled on his jacket, picked up his camera bag. "Don't thank me yet. I might decide you're not worth the effort." He left. I sat there with my cold coffee and watched him disappear into the December afternoon. Over the next 4 months, we met every Wednesday at 2 o'clock. Same booth, same order. Conversations that started stilted slowly became easier. Not easy, but easier. Jordan told me about his life with Thomas and Catherine, about discovering photography in high school, about building his business one wedding at a time, one client referral at a time, about the satisfaction of creating something beautiful from nothing but light and timing. I listened, didn't try to fix anything, didn't offer advice unless he asked, just listened. And slowly, Jordan started texting between Wednesdays. Photos of jobs, questions about equipment, small things, building trust one message at a time. I didn't tell Maya any of this. I told myself I was waiting for the right time, that I'd explain everything once Jordan and I found our footing. But the truth was simpler and more cowardly. I was afraid Maya couldn't handle it. Turned out I was right. It was a Saturday afternoon in March, early spring in Boston. Cold sunshine, patches of dirty snow in the shade. I was in my home office, on the phone with Jordan. We'd been meeting weekly since December, and he'd finally asked for advice about expanding his photography business. I'd offered to co-sign a loan, not a gift, a business investment with clear repayment terms. It was the first financial help he'd accepted in 4 months. Maya had a key to my house, had since she was 16. I never thought to take it back. Why would I? She was my daughter, my only child. I didn't hear her come in, didn't hear her climb the stairs, didn't know she was standing outside my office door until it was too late. Jordan, listen, I said, reviewing paperwork on my screen. $60,000 is significant, but your business plan is solid. Revenue projections are conservative. I think you're undervaluing yourself. Jordan's voice came through the speaker, hesitant. I just don't want you to think I'm taking advantage. You're not. This is business. You'll pay it back with interest. I'm co-signing, not gifting. I paused. You're my son, my firstborn. I missed 37 years with you. If I can help you build something now, I want to. But on your terms. Always on your terms. We talked another 10 minutes about interest rates and payment schedules. Professional. Exactly how Jordan wanted it. When I hung up, I felt good. Like maybe we were finally making progress. I had no idea Maya had heard every word. Later, much later, after everything fell apart, Maya told me she'd come by to ask about the wedding budget. $20,000 due Monday. She'd wanted to know if I could cover it. Normal mother-daughter stuff. But she'd heard me on the phone. Heard my son and firstborn in $60,000, and her brain did the math wrong. She stood outside my door listening. Not knocking, just listening. And with each word, the story in her mind got darker. Another son, a secret son, an older son, firstborn, which made Maya what? Second, replacement, and $60,000. That was real money, the kind that said this Jordan person mattered. What else was I giving him? Part of the company? Part of the estate? Half of everything Maya thought was hers? Instead of knocking, instead of asking, Mom, who's Jordan? Instead of letting me explain that the loan was co-signed, not gifted, that my will hadn't changed, that Maya was still my heir. Instead, Maya turned around, walked downstairs, let herself out, got in her car and drove away. Then she went hunting. Jordan Photographer Boston brought up Richardson Photography immediately. Professional website, portfolio, about page with the owner's photo. Jordan Hayes, 37 years old, 6'2", light brown skin, dark hair, and my eyes staring from the screen. Unmistakable. Maya sat in her car for an hour looking at that photo, zooming in, comparing it to old pictures of me at that age. The resemblance was undeniable. Then she checked her wedding vendor list. The photographer I'd recommended 3 months earlier, Hayes Photography, Jordan Hayes. I'd planted my secret son at her wedding. That's what Maya thought. That I'd use the reception to introduce Jordan publicly, to claim my firstborn and humiliate Maya in front of the Whitfields and all of Boston society. It was paranoid, wrong, based on half a conversation overheard through a door, but Maya believed it. Over the next 3 months, she researched sedatives, found lorazepam, prescription strength, dissolves in liquid, causes drowsiness and confusion, calculated dosing, planned timing, all to drug her own mother. To make me look drunk, incompetent, unfit. To force my hand before I could give everything to Jordan. She never asked, never verified, never gave me a chance to explain that Jordan wanted nothing except a relationship, that $60,000 was a business loan with interest, that my will was unchanged. She just acted, out of fear, out of jealousy, out of 35 years of being my only child and suddenly discovering she wasn't. What Maya didn't know was that her photographer, the vendor I'd recommended, was the very brother she was trying to erase, and that Jordan Hayes had a clear view of the head table through his camera lens. Now you understand why, when I got that text message, "Your daughter drugged your glass," I didn't panic. I looked at those 2 champagne flutes, identical, golden, perfect. I looked at Maya, standing by that $15,000 cake, watching, waiting. And I made a choice, not out of revenge, not out of cruelty, but because sometimes the only way to save your child is to let them fall. The MC's voice came over the speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, in just a moment, the bride would like to say a few words." Maya smiled at the crowd, raised her hand in acknowledgement. Patricia Whitfield stood, smoothing her dress. She walked past our table, her perfume trailing behind her like a question mark. Maya turned to greet her future mother-in-law. "Patricia, that dress is stunning." 5 seconds. That's all I needed. My left hand to my glass, right hand to Maya's glass. Lift simultaneously. Slide across silk. Poison one to her spot. Clean one to mine. The champagne barely rippled. Rotate to hide fingerprints. Set down. Same spacing. Same angle. 5 seconds. Done. Maya turned back. Her eyes went to the glasses. No suspicion. Her shoulders relaxed. She thought it was done. Thought her plan had worked. Lakeisha leaned close to me. "You sure you're all right? You look like you're about to jump out of your skin." "Just emotional," I said quietly. "My baby's married now." Lakeisha didn't sound convinced, but she let it drop. The MC tapped the microphone. "And now the bride would like to say a few words to her family and friends." 300 guests fell silent. Chairs scraped. Glasses clinked. Maya reached for her champagne flute. The poisoned one now sitting in front of her. She raised it high. Crystal catching the light. Smiling. "To family," she said, her voice warm and sincere and completely false. "To the people who are always there for you, who'd do anything for you." The irony cut so deep I almost gasped. I raised my clean glass. "To family." 300 guests raised theirs. Crystal glinted under the chandeliers. Maya looked directly at me, smiled that daughter-to-mother smile I'd seen her whole life, and drank. The champagne went down smooth. I watched her throat work, watched her lower the glass, smile at Marcus, smile at the applauding guests. She didn't pause, didn't notice anything wrong. Neither did the 300 people around us. Only I knew what had just happened. Only I knew my daughter had just consumed the drug meant for me. And only I knew that Jordan Hayes stood in the shadows by the photographer's station, camera raised, documenting everything. Lakeisha raised her glass to me. To Maya, she looked so happy. "Yes," I said softly, watching my daughter set down her empty glass. "She does." Maya reached for Marcus's hand, laughed at something he whispered. She looked relaxed now, confident. The hard part was over, she probably thought. In an hour, her mother would be slurring words, stumbling, making a fool of herself in front of Boston's elite. And Maya would be there to help, to take control, to protect the family name. She had no idea. I sat there with that clean champagne in my hand, watching my daughter, and all I could think was, "Forgive me, baby, but you need to learn this lesson, because sometimes love isn't protection. Sometimes love is consequences." The main course had just been cleared away. Herb-crusted lamb, probably more per plate than most people spent on groceries in a week. Now came the real show. Toasts, speeches, cake cutting. Servers appeared, pouring fresh champagne into crystal flutes. French vintage. The good stuff. Another bottle that cost more than some people made in a day. Maya sat 3 feet away from me, talking to her bridesmaids. But I watched her. Really watched her the way I'd watched her when she was a child trying to hide something. A broken vase, a bad grade, a lie. The signs were there. They'd always been there. I just hadn't wanted to see them. At 8:22 p.m., Maya shifted in her seat. Nothing dramatic, just uncomfortable. Then her hand came up to her temple, rubbed it briefly. My pulse quickened. Lorazepam. I'd done my research after receiving Jordan's text. Onset time, 15 to 30 minutes when dissolved in liquid. Symptoms: dizziness, confusion, loss of coordination, slurred speech. Maya blinked hard. Once, twice, like clearing something from her vision. "Baby," Marcus finally noticed. He touched her arm. "You okay?" "Yeah." Maya's voice sounded steady. "Just warm. All these people. Want me to ask them to turn up the AC?" "No, I'm fine." She smiled, convincing enough. But I saw her hand tremble when she reached for her water glass. Saw her concentrate not to spill. The drug was working, spreading through her bloodstream, and I could only watch. Lakeisha leaned close to me. "Anna, you're gripping that napkin like it owes you money. What's going on?" "Nothing," I said, too quickly. Lakeisha had known me too long to believe that. "You've been wound up since you checked your phone. Who texted you?" I couldn't tell her. Not yet. Not while we were sitting in a ballroom full of witnesses with my daughter slowly poisoning herself 3 feet away. "Later," I whispered. "I promise. Later." Lakeisha studied my face, then nodded. "I'm holding you to that." At 8:25, the MC took the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, the best man would like to say a few words." Ryan Whitfield stood, Marcus's younger brother, corporate lawyer, Harvard Law. He'd buy me time. Time for the drug to take deeper hold. Time for Maya to dig her own grave. Ryan launched into a story about Marcus's terrible cooking in college. The room laughed. Maya laughed too, but it sounded off. Delayed. Like she was processing everything a half-second slower. Another story about spring break in Cancun. More laughter. Maya's laugh came again, but her eyes were unfocused now. That glassy quality that meant the drug was winning. I watched my daughter's face. Watched the moment-by-moment deterioration. Part of me wanted to stand up, grab her arm, say, "Maya, we need to talk." Now. In private. But the larger part, the part that had built a business from nothing, that had survived 40 years in rooms full of people who didn't think I belonged, that part knew this had to happen. Maya needed to fall. At 8:32, she touched her face, ran her hand down her cheek like she was checking if it was still there. "Stand up," I thought. "Make an excuse. Go to the bathroom. Leave before this gets worse." But she didn't, probably thinking it would pass. Just nerves. Just champagne. Just the heat. At 8:35, Ryan wrapped up with a toast. 300 glasses raised. Maya raised her water glass, but her hand shook noticeably. Marcus saw it. "Honey, you're shaking." "I'm fine," sharper than intended. "I just need to give my speech." "No," I thought, "please don't." But the MC was already returning to the microphone. "Thank you, Ryan. And now the bride would like to say a few words." Maya stood. She gripped the table edge briefly, steadying herself, trying to look casual. Then she walked toward the front. Toward that 7-tier wedding cake dominating the display table. White fondant, handcrafted sugar flowers, gold leaf that cost $50 per sheet. Perfect backdrop for a speech, she'd said during rehearsal. Perfect backdrop for a disaster, I thought now. She positioned herself beside the cake, took the microphone from the stand, smiled at the crowd. That practiced camera-ready smile perfected over 35 years. But her eyes were glazed, unfocused, pupils dilated. Around us, 300 guests waited. Marcus beamed from his seat. Patricia and Robert Whitfield sat at attention, ready to hear their new daughter-in-law's heartfelt words. No one knew. No one saw what I saw. Maya swayed. Just barely. Almost imperceptible. She opened her mouth and I knew, watching her struggle to focus, that the next 5 minutes would destroy everything she'd spent her life building. But to understand why I let it happen, you need to know what Maya had become. Not the sweet girl I raised. The woman she'd turned into when she started caring more about the Whitfield name than her own. It started 2 years ago when Maya brought Marcus home for Thanksgiving. I'd made my grandmother's recipes. Fried chicken, collard greens, macaroni and cheese, sweet potato pie. The food I grew up eating. The food that reminded me where I came from. Maya picked at her plate. "Mom, did you have to make this? This?" I'd looked at the table, at the spread I'd spent 2 days preparing. It's just, Marcus's family usually has turkey. Traditional Thanksgiving. This is traditional, baby. Our tradition. I know, but she'd glanced at Marcus, who was eating seconds and complimenting everything. Never mind. That should have been my first warning. The second came 6 months later. Maya straightened her hair for the engagement party. Bone straight. Pressed so hard it looked painted on. I like your natural curls, I'd said. Mom, please. Not tonight. I'm just saying, Patricia says I look more professional this way. She'd checked her reflection. More polished. Patricia says. Yes, Mom. Patricia says. She knows about these things. These things. Meaning how to look acceptable to old Boston money. How to erase the parts of yourself that didn't fit their mold. Third warning, the bridal shower. Patricia hosted. Invited 30 of her friends. 2 were women of color, both married to white men, both with straightened hair, both speaking in that careful, articulated way that said, "See? I'm not threatening." I'd arrived in a bright African print dress. Bold. Unapologetic. Me. Patricia's smile had frozen. Anna, how vibrant. Thank you. I'd smiled back just as cold. Maya had pulled me aside. Mom, why are you wearing that? Wearing what? That dress, it's so loud. I like this dress. Your father bought it for me in Ghana. I know, but... She'd lowered her voice. Couldn't you have worn something more... neutral? Neutral. She meant white. She meant invisible. No, baby, I'd said quietly. I couldn't. She'd walked away, embarrassed, of me, of the woman who'd worked 3 jobs to put her through private school, who'd built a company so she'd never have to choose between paying rent and eating. That's when I knew. Maya wasn't just marrying Marcus Whitfield. She was trying to marry into whiteness itself, trying to erase Anna Mae Brennan from Selma, Alabama, trying to become someone Patricia Whitfield could claim without qualification. And when she found out about Jordan, about my firstborn, my son who existed before her, who had claim to the name and the legacy she thought belonged only to her, she panicked. Because if I had another child, especially one who didn't need the Brennan money, who'd built something himself, who wasn't trying to be anything except exactly who he was, then Maya's entire identity, daughter of Anna Brennan, heiress to Brennan Industries, would crumble. So she decided to drug me, to make me look incompetent, to protect her position as my only heir, not realizing that the real threat wasn't Jordan, it was her own shame. Back at the wedding, 8:40 p.m., Maya tapped the microphone. Thank you all for being here tonight. Her voice carried, but the words came out slightly thick, like her tongue was too heavy. It means the world to Marcus and me. Normal, practiced, but I heard the difference. She blinked hard. Once, twice, 300 faces turned to her, expectant, loving, ready for the heartfelt speech about family and love and new beginnings. My mother, Anna Brennan, taught me everything about family. Maya gestured toward me. About loyalty, about carrying on a legacy. Guests smiled, nodded. This was the script they expected. But Maya's hand gripped the microphone tighter, knuckles white. She taught me that blood matters, that family is everything, that legacy defines us. The tone had shifted, something harder underneath. Lakeisha glanced at me. I kept my face neutral. Maya swayed slightly, caught herself on the cake table edge. I've spent my whole life trying to live up to her expectations. Her voice was getting louder, less controlled. Trying to be worthy of the Brennan name, trying to deserve everything she built. Marcus started to stand. Maya waved him off without looking at him. But apparently, she paused, blinked slowly. Apparently that's not enough. Murmurs rippled through the guests. This wasn't wedding speech territory anymore. Patricia Whitfield looked at Robert. His face had gone tight. Because no matter what I do, Maya continued, her words slurring slightly now, no matter how hard I work, there's always someone else. Maya, Marcus said, standing. Honey, maybe you should sit down. I'm fine, louder than intended. The microphone amplified it. I just need to say something. 300 guests sat in uncomfortable silence. This wasn't funny anymore. This was a breakdown. I sat frozen. Part of me wanted to walk over, take the microphone, end this. But I didn't move. She'd made her choice 3 months ago when she decided to poison her own mother. Now she'd live with it. Maya touched her face, ran her hand down her cheek like checking if it was still there. Do you know what it's like? She was almost talking to herself now. To find out you're being replaced? That your mother has another child she's giving everything to? The words were out, slurred but unmistakable. The ballroom went completely silent, 300 people holding their breath. Maya, I said quietly, just her name. A warning, but she was past warnings, past control. The lorazepam had won. I heard you on the phone, Mom. She looked directly at me, eyes unfocused. Talking to him. You're my firstborn, you said. My firstborn. Gasps from the crowd, heads turning toward me. Lakeisha's hand gripped my shoulder. Anna, what is she talking about? I didn't answer, just watched my daughter unravel. I know about Jordan, Maya said into the microphone. The name echoed through the ballroom. I know about your other son, the one you're giving $60,000 to, the one you love more because he doesn't need you, because he's perfect, and I'm just... She swayed harder. Her knees buckled. She grabbed for the microphone stand, for the table. Then everything happened in slow motion. Maya's body pitched forward. No control. Dead weight. Her arms flailed out, grasping at nothing. The microphone stayed clutched in her right hand. Still on, still broadcasting every sound to the entire ballroom. She fell face first toward the cake. Her forehead hit the top tier first. The impact cracked the white fondant like ice shattering. Then her full weight followed. The cascade was immediate. Tier 7 caved on impact. Handcrafted sugar flowers exploded outward like shrapnel, flying through the air, landing on nearby tables, on guests' plates, on Patricia Whitfield's champagne-colored dress. White buttercream erupted in every direction. Thick sweet coating everything within 6 feet. Tier 6 buckled under the pressure. The support structure, thin wooden dowels the baker had carefully measured and placed, snapped like matchsticks. The sound carried across the ballroom. Crack, crack, crack. Tiers 5 and 4 went next. Domino effect, each layer sliding sideways, collapsing into the one below. The beautiful geometric precision destroyed in seconds. The bottom 3 tiers couldn't hold. Too much weight. Too much momentum. The entire display table shuddered. Then everything exploded. Buttercream sprayed outward like a bomb blast. White frosting hit the floor, the nearby chairs, the front row of guests. A woman screamed. Then another. Beneath the white, red velvet interior exposed itself. Bright crimson cake layers visible through the destruction. Red and white mixing together in a way that looked disturbingly like a crime scene. Like something violent had happened here. Which in a way it had. Edible gold leaf, the kind that cost $50 per sheet, floated through the air like confetti, catching the chandelier light, drifting down onto the wreckage. Beautiful and grotesque at the same time. Those handcrafted sugar flowers the baker had spent hours creating? Shattered. Ground into the buttercream. Unrecognizable. Maya lay face down in Tier 3. Buttercream packed in her nose, her mouth, her hair. Her $28,000 Vera Wang gown, custom-made, perfectly fitted just last month, was soaked through. Ruined. And the microphone. The microphone was still in her hand. Still on. Still broadcasting to every speaker in the ballroom. Her voice came through, muffled by cake, slurred by drugs, but clear enough. I heard him on the phone, giving him money. Everything that's mine. 300 guests stood frozen. Phones coming out of pockets and purses. Recording. This was going to be on social media in minutes. Hashtag Brennan Wedding Disaster would trend on Twitter within the hour. The bastard's son who wasn't even there, Maya's voice continued, barely conscious. No filter left at all. Gets everything I worked for. Marcus rushed forward. Maya! Oh my God, Maya! But he didn't touch her, just stood there, staring at his bride covered in $15,000 of destroyed art. Mom was supposed to be drunk. Maya's words were breaking up now, consciousness slipping. Supposed to look like a fool. Sign the papers. Make him go away. Patricia Whitfield swayed. Robert caught her as her knees gave out. She hadn't fainted. Not quite, but close. Her daughter-in-law had just confessed to drugging someone at her own wedding, in front of 300 witnesses, with phones recording. "Wrong glass," Maya whispered. The microphone picked it up, amplified it, broadcast it to every corner of the ballroom. I drank the wrong glass. Complete silence. 300 people processing what they just heard. Then chaos erupted. Guests shouting, chairs scraping back, people rushing forward or rushing away, no one sure which was appropriate. Did she just confess to drugging someone? She said wrong glass. She drugged herself? Oh my God, is she breathing? Someone call 911. I'm recording this. Delete that. Delete it right now. But it was too late. Phones everywhere, recording, live streaming, posting. The video would be viral before the ambulance arrived. Marcus finally moved, dropped to his knees beside the cake wreckage, tried to pull Maya's face out of the buttercream. "Trevor, wake up! Please wake up!" He was crying. His tuxedo dragged through frosting. "Somebody help her!" Hotel staff rushed forward. The manager, Michael Hartford, professional to the core even in crisis, was shouting instructions. "Clear some space. Someone check if she's breathing. Has anyone called 911? But I barely heard it. The noise of the ballroom had become white static. All I could see was Maya, covered in cake and frosting and gold leaf and the ruins of her own ambition, her confession still echoing through the speakers, her plan exposed to everyone who mattered. Lakeisha appeared at my elbow. "Jesus Christ, Anna, what just happened?" I couldn't answer, couldn't move, just stood there staring at my daughter, at the wreckage of her wedding, her reputation, her marriage, her life, all destroyed in 60 seconds. And through it all, one thought kept repeating in my mind. I did this. I swapped those glasses, knowing this would happen, knowing she'd drug herself. I let my own daughter collapse in front of 300 people. "Ma'am?" A paramedic appeared beside Maya, professional, efficient. "Can you tell me what she ingested?" I opened my mouth, closed it. Could I? Should I? If I told them she'd tried to poison me, Maya would face criminal charges, attempted assault, maybe attempted murder. But if I stayed silent, they wouldn't know how to treat her properly. "Lorazepam," I heard myself say. "Dissolved in champagne, approximately 4 milligrams, maybe 5. The paramedic's eyes snapped to mine. "How do you know that?" "Because it was meant for me." The ballroom, already chaotic, somehow got quieter. People near enough to hear turned, stared. "Your daughter tried to drug you?" the paramedic asked. "Yes." "And you switched the glasses?" "Yes." He studied my face, then nodded. "Smart woman. Probably saved your life." He turned back to Maya, checking vitals. "She'll be okay. Lorazepam at that dose isn't fatal, but she needs monitoring. We're taking her to Mass General." They loaded Maya onto a stretcher, buttercream still matted in her hair, gold leaf clinging to her $28,000 dress. Her face pale, slack, completely vulnerable in a way I hadn't seen since she was a child. One of the paramedics covered her with a white sheet. For a terrible moment, it looked like a shroud. Marcus climbed into the ambulance with her, his face blank with shock. Patricia Whitfield stood beside what remained of the wedding cake. She wasn't crying. Her face was empty, like someone who'd used up every emotion they had. She reached down, picked up Maya's wedding band and engagement ring from where they'd fallen in the destruction. Both diamonds caught the light one last time. Then Patricia walked over to me. "How dare you?" she said. Her voice shook with rage. "How dare you bring this circus into our family?" I stood. Every muscle in my body ached with exhaustion. "Mrs. Whitfield, I will pay for everything. The venue, the cake, the catering, all of it. You think you can buy your way out of this?" Patricia's voice rose. "You think money fixes what your daughter tried to do? What you let happen?" "No," I said quietly. "But it's the least I can do." "The Whitfields want nothing from you," Robert said, stepping beside his wife. "Not your money, not your apologies, nothing. Stay away from our family." Patricia pressed the rings into my hand. "Tell Maya we hope she gets help. Tell her the marriage is annulled. Tell her goodbye." Then the Whitfield family left. Patricia's arm around Marcus's shoulder, Robert's hand on his wife's back, a united front walking away from the wreckage. Half the guests followed them. The other half stayed, Phones out, still recording. I stood in the center of the empty dance floor, surrounded by $100,000 of wasted celebration. Lakeisha wrapped her arm around my shoulders. Come on, honey, let's get you out of here. Not yet, I said. There's someone I need to see first. I turned, looked toward the photographer's station in the corner, and there he was, Jordan Hayes, my firstborn son, 37 years old. Camera lowered, no longer taking pictures, just standing there in the shadows, watching, waiting. Our eyes met across the destroyed ballroom, and slowly, deliberately, Jordan walked toward me. 300 remaining guests turned to watch, because something about the way he moved commanded attention. This man they didn't know, this stranger with a camera, walking straight toward Anna Brennan like he had every right to be there. He stopped 6 feet away, close enough to talk, far enough to maintain distance. I'm sorry, he said quietly. I'm sorry it had to happen this way. Don't be. My voice came out steady, stronger than I felt. She made her choice. This was the consequence. Jordan glanced at the destroyed cake, at the streaks of buttercream and red velvet across the floor, at the gold leaf still drifting through the air like snow. That could have been you, he said, face down in that cake, unconscious, humiliated. I know. She tried to poison you, Anna, her own mother. I know that too. And you let her do it to herself. Not an accusation, an observation. Yes, I said. I did. Why? I looked at my son, at this man I'd only known for 8 months, this stranger who shared my DNA and my eyes and apparently my sense of justice. Because some lessons, I said slowly, can only be learned the hard way. Jordan studied me for a long moment. Then, to my surprise, he smiled. Small, sad, but real. Thomas told me you were strong, he said. He wasn't wrong. Behind me, I heard footsteps, multiple people approaching. When I turned, Jordan turned with me. And together, we faced the consequences of what we'd done. Jordan didn't move away when the crowd pressed closer. He stood beside me, shoulder to shoulder, as 300 guests and hotel staff waited to see what would happen next. Michael Hartford, the hotel manager, approached carefully. His face was professional, but I could see the calculation behind his eyes. He was probably already writing the incident report in his head. Mrs. Brennan, he said quietly, we need to discuss the situation. The damages, I corrected. You need to discuss the damages. Yes, ma'am. Send me the invoice, full venue cost, plus 30% for your staff's trouble and discretion. I met his eyes. That should cover everything, including the mess and the incident. Michael's eyebrows rose slightly. That would be approximately $110,000, Mrs. Brennan. I'm aware of what it costs, Michael. You'll have a check by Monday morning. He nodded, relief crossing his face. Thank you. We'll begin cleanup immediately. Lakeisha stepped forward, her lawyer instincts fully activated. Anna, don't say anything else. Not here, not now. We need to leave. In a minute, I said, because someone else was approaching. Someone who'd been sitting in the back, watching everything unfold. Denise Clark, my friend of 23 years, a physician at Mass General. She'd been at the wedding as my guest, but now she moved with professional purpose. Anna, she said, her voice low. That was lorazepam your daughter took? Yes. You're certain about the dosage? As certain as I can be. I saw the prescription bottle in her purse last week when she came by the house. 4 to 5 milligrams dissolved in approximately 4 ounces of champagne. Denise pulled out her phone, typed quickly. I'm sending the information to the ER at Mass General. They'll know what to watch for. She looked at me, her dark eyes serious. You did the right thing telling the paramedics. That probably saved her life. I'm her mother, I said quietly. No matter what she did, I'm still her mother. I know. Denise squeezed my hand. That's why this must hurt like hell. It did. More than I could say. More than I wanted to admit in front of 300 strangers with their phones still recording. Jordan shifted beside me. We should go, he said, before this gets worse. It can't get much worse, I said. Yes, it can. He gestured to the guests, to the phones, to the wreckage. In about 10 minutes, this is going to be on every social media platform. By morning, it'll be national news. Billionaire's daughter drugs mother at wedding, collapses into cake. You need to be somewhere private when that happens. He was right. Of course he was right. I looked at Lakeisha. Can you handle things here? Make sure the Whitfields get their belongings, coordinate with the hotel. I've got it, Lakeisha said. You go. I'll call you in an hour. I turned to the remaining guests, raised my voice just enough to carry. Thank you all for coming tonight. I'm sorry you had to witness this. Please, enjoy the rest of the evening if you choose to stay or feel free to leave. The hotel will accommodate either choice. Then I walked toward the exit, my head high, my back straight, the way my grandmother taught me. A lady walks like she's wearing a crown, even when her world is falling apart. Jordan followed. I felt him behind me, silent, steady, my son, my firstborn. The child I never got to raise, now walking me out of the ruins of my youngest child's wedding. The irony wasn't lost on me. We didn't go home. Jordan drove me to his studio in Cambridge, the converted warehouse space with floor-to-ceiling windows and photographs covering every wall. You'll have privacy here, he said, unlocking the door. No one knows about this place except my clients, and none of them will show up at 9 o'clock on a Saturday night. I walked inside, my heels clicking on the concrete floor. The space was beautiful, open, honest. Every photograph on the wall told a story: weddings, portraits, landscapes, moments of joy and sorrow and everything in between, captured with technical precision and emotional truth. You built this, I said, looking around. All of this, by yourself? Yes. Jordan shrugged off his jacket, loosened his tie. It took 10 years, but yes. Every camera, every light, every client relationship. I built it. I sank into a leather chair in the corner, suddenly exhausted, every bone in my body aching. I'm sorry, I said. For what? For everything. For not finding you sooner. For bringing you into this mess. For using you as the photographer at Maya's wedding. Stop. Jordan pulled up a chair, sat across from me. You didn't use me. I volunteered. When you told me about Maya's wedding and asked if I knew any good photographers, I offered, remember? I did. 6 weeks ago, over coffee. I'd mentioned needing a photographer and Jordan had said, I could do it, if you want. No family discount, full rate, professional contract. But I'd like to be there, to see this part of your life. I thought it would help, I whispered. I thought if Maya met you, saw you, realized you weren't a threat. She saw me as exactly what she feared, Jordan said. Someone who didn't need anything from you. Someone who existed on his own terms. That's threatening to someone who's defined themselves entirely by their relationship to you. He wasn't wrong. When did you see her do it? I asked. When did you see Maya drug the champagne? Jordan pulled out his camera, scrolled through images, turned the screen toward me. There, time-stamped 8:17 p.m., Maya standing at the head table, back to the camera, 2 champagne flutes in front of her. Her right hand reaching into her clutch purse, pulling out something small, a pill, crushed between her fingers, her hand hovering over the left champagne glass. Next photo, 8:17:23 p.m., the powder falling into the glass, barely visible, but there. Next photo, 8:17:31 p.m., Maya stirring the champagne with a cocktail stirrer, watching the powder dissolve. I was shooting candids, Jordan said, trying to capture unguarded moments. I saw her acting strange, looking around to make sure no one was watching, so I kept shooting. He paused. When I saw what she was doing, I texted you immediately. Thank you, I said. If you hadn't warned me, you'd be in the hospital right now instead of her. Maybe worse. I don't know what 4 milligrams of lorazepam would do to a 65-year-old woman. Neither do I admitted. And I don't want to find out. My phone buzzed. Lakeisha. Whitfield's gone. Hotel cleaning up. Video already has 50,000 views on Twitter. Call me when you're ready. 50,000 views. In less than an hour. Jordan was right. By morning, this would be everywhere. I set the phone down. I should go to the hospital. Check on Maya. Not yet, Jordan said. Give it a few hours. Let the lorazepam clear her system. Let her wake up and realize what she's done. Then go. You sound like you've thought this through. I have. He stood, walked to a small kitchenette in the corner. Thomas was an alcoholic. High-functioning, but an alcoholic. I learned young that you can't help someone until they're ready to face what they've done, and you can't face what you've done until you're sober. He returned with 2 glasses of water, handed me one. Maya needs to wake up in a hospital bed, he continued, with the memory of face-planting into her wedding cake, confessing her crimes to 300 people, and destroying her marriage. She needs to sit with that, to feel the full weight of it. Then, and only then, will she be ready to hear what you have to say. I sipped the water. You're wise beyond your years. I'm 37, and I've had a complicated life. He smiled slightly. Watching your father drink himself into early grave tends to accelerate maturity. Thomas died of cancer. Thomas died of pancreatic cancer that was likely caused by 40 years of heavy drinking. But yes, technically cancer. Jordan sat back down. He loved you, you know. Until the day he died, he kept your picture hidden in his workshop, just one. You, standing in front of a construction site, smiling. He said that was the day you told him you'd gotten a loan to start your business, the day you became unstoppable. Tears stung my eyes. He said that? He said you were the bravest person he ever knew, that you faced the world exactly as you were and dared it to tell you that you didn't belong. Jordan's voice softened. He said his biggest regret was choosing safety over love, choosing what his family wanted over what his heart wanted. He said that decision poisoned everything that came after. I set down the water glass because my hands were shaking. Did he love Catherine? He cared for her, respected her, built a life with her. But love? Jordan shook his head. No, I don't think he ever loved her the way he loved you. We sat in silence. Outside the windows, Cambridge moved through its Saturday night. Cars passing, people laughing, lives continuing, oblivious. I should hate you, Jordan said suddenly. I looked at him, startled. I should hate you for not finding me, he continued, for not fighting harder, for letting Thomas and his family take me away from you. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. But I can't, because I spent 8 months getting to know you, and I realized something. What? You did the best you could with what you had. A 27-year-old black woman in 1987 going up against one of Boston's oldest white families? You would have lost. They would have destroyed you. And then I would have grown up watching my mother broken and bitter, knowing I was the cause. He shook his head. Thomas made a cowardly choice, but maybe it was also the merciful one. That's generous of you, I whispered. No, it's realistic. Jordan stood, walked to the window. I had a good childhood, Anna. Thomas and Catherine gave me everything I needed. Education, stability, love, of a kind. I didn't suffer. I didn't starve. I didn't wonder where my next meal was coming from. He turned to face me. Maya had all that too, plus you. Plus your strength, your business sense, your refusal to accept limitations. And look what she did with it. She's scared, I said. Fear makes people do terrible things. So does entitlement. He wasn't wrong about that either. My phone buzzed again. Denise this time. Maya's awake, stable, asking for you. Mass General, 4th floor, room 412. I stood, smoothing my dress. I need to go. I know. Jordan grabbed his jacket. I'll drive you. You don't have to? Yes, I do. He held my gaze. She's my sister. Half-sister, technically, but still, I should be there. Mass General Hospital at 10:30 p.m. was quiet. The emergency rush had passed. The night shift had settled in. Our footsteps echoed on the linoleum floors as we made our way to the 4th floor. Room 412, private. Of course, the Whitfields had arranged for private, except the Whitfields weren't there. Maya lay in the hospital bed alone. IV drip feeding fluids into her system to flush out the lorazepam. Her face was clean. Someone had washed away the buttercream and gold leaf, but her eyes were red-rimmed. From crying or from the drugs, I couldn't tell. She looked up when I entered, saw Jordan behind me. Her face crumpled. "Mama," she whispered. Then she saw Jordan and flinched. "And him. His name is Jordan," I said quietly. "And he's your brother." I pulled a chair close to the bed. Jordan stayed by the door, giving us space but present. "How do you feel?" I asked. "Like I want to die." Maya's voice was hoarse. "Like I wish I'd taken more of those pills and never woken up." "Don't say that." "Why not? It's true." Tears spilled over. "I ruined everything, Mama. My wedding, my marriage, my reputation. The Whitfields won't even take my calls. Marcus, She choked on a sob. Marcus texted me 30 minutes ago. One line. My family's lawyers will be in touch. That's it. No, I love you. No, let's work this out. Just lawyers. I should have felt vindicated. Should have felt satisfaction that Maya was facing consequences for trying to poison me. But all I felt was sorrow. You did this to yourself, baby, I said gently. You planned to drug your own mother at your wedding. What did you think would happen? I didn't think. Maya's voice rose, then cracked. I panicked. I heard you on the phone talking about Jordan, about giving him money, calling him your firstborn, and I lost it. So instead of asking me about it, you decided to poison me? I wasn't trying to poison you. I wasn't trying to kill you. She was crying harder now. I just wanted you to look incompetent, to slur your words, stumble around, maybe sign some papers you wouldn't remember signing. Then I could have you declared mentally unfit before you changed your will and gave everything to him. Jordan shifted by the door. I held up a hand, asking him to wait. Maya, I said carefully, what makes you think I was planning to change my will? You said he was your firstborn. You gave him $60,000. It was a loan, co-signed, with interest, for his business. Maya's crying slowed. A loan? Yes, baby. A business loan. Jordan is paying back every penny, with 8% interest. Check my bank statements if you don't believe me. But you said firstborn. Because he is. I kept my voice even. Jordan is 37 years old. You're 35. Mathematically, chronologically, he is my firstborn child. That's not an insult to you. It's a fact. Maya stared at me. So you weren't giving him my inheritance? No. You weren't making him CEO of Brennan Industries? No. You weren't choosing him over me? Maya. I took her hand. It was cold, trembling. I love you. You are my daughter, my baby girl, the child I raised. Nothing will ever change that. Finding Jordan doesn't diminish my love for you. Love isn't a finite resource. It doesn't run out because you add another person to the circle. She was quiet for a long moment. Then, but he's better than me. What? Jordan, he's better than me. He built his business from nothing. He doesn't need your money. He's independent and successful and good, and I'm just... She gestured helplessly at herself. I'm just your spoiled daughter who tried to poison you at her own wedding. You're not spoiled, I said. You're scared. There's a difference. I don't understand the difference, I sighed. Let me tell you what I've learned in 65 years, baby. Fear makes you small. It makes you defensive. It makes you see enemies where there are none. You were so afraid of losing me, of losing your position, of losing the Whitfield family's approval, that you couldn't see the truth right in front of you. What truth? That you never needed any of it. I squeezed her hand. Not my money, not my company, not the Whitfield name. You're brilliant, Maya. You have an MBA from Harvard. You have 10 years of experience in private equity. You could work anywhere, build anything. But you've been so busy trying to be worthy of the Brennan name that you never figured out who Maya is without it. Fresh tears rolled down her cheeks. And the Whitfields, I continued, my voice hardening slightly. Baby, they didn't love you for who you are. Patricia Whitfield made you straighten your hair, change your speech, erase parts of yourself to fit their mold. That's not love. That's colonization. Maya flinched. Mama, it's true and you know it. You were so desperate to be accepted by old Boston money that you tried to become white. Not literally, but culturally. Erasing your grandmother's recipes, your natural hair, your mother's vibrant clothes. Erasing everything that made you you, just to fit into Patricia Whitfield's narrow definition of acceptable. I thought that's what I had to do to succeed. No, baby, that's what you thought you had to do to be loved. But real love doesn't ask you to disappear. Jordan cleared his throat from the doorway. We both turned to look at him. Can I say something? He asked quietly. Maya tensed. I don't want to hear. I think you need to, I said. Jordan? He walked closer, stopped at the foot of the bed. I didn't come here to take anything from you, he said. I don't want Brennan Industries. I don't want Anna's money. I don't want your inheritance. I just wanted to know my mother. That's it. That's all I've ever wanted. Maya studied him. You saved her. You sent that text warning her about the champagne. Yes. Why? You could have let me drug her, then swept in as the good son and taken everything. Jordan smiled sadly. Because I spent 37 years without a mother, and I don't want to spend the next 37 the same way, even if it meant protecting her from her own daughter. The room fell silent except for the beep of Maya's heart monitor. I'm sorry, Maya whispered, looking at Jordan. I tried to erase you before I even met you. That wasn't fair. No, Jordan agreed. It wasn't, but fear rarely is. Maya turned to me. What happens now? I took a breath. This was the hard part, the part I'd been dreading, but it was necessary. Here's what's going to happen, I said. You're taking a leave of absence from Brennan Industries. Minimum 1 year. What? No, Mama, the company will survive without you. You need to figure out who you are without me, without the company, without the safety net. I held up a hand to stop her protests. You're going to find a job somewhere else. Entry level. No connections from me. No recommendations. You'll use your Harvard MBA and your own skills. Nothing else. Maya's face went pale. You're firing me? I'm giving you the gift I never gave you before. The chance to fail. To struggle. To become your own woman. I can't afford. You'll figure it out. Move somewhere cheaper. Budget. Learn what it's like to build something yourself, the way Jordan did, the way I did when I was your age. And after the year? After the year, we'll talk. About your future at Brennan Industries. About your relationship with Jordan. About everything. But first, you need to prove to yourself, not to me, to yourself, that you can stand on your own 2 feet. Maya was crying again. But this time it felt different. Less desperate. More cleansing. I don't know how, she whispered. Neither did I when I started, I said. But you'll learn, and I'll be here, not to catch you every time you fall, but to help you learn how to get back up. What about, she glanced at Jordan. What about him? Jordan and I exchanged looks. That's up to you, I said. Jordan is part of this family now. You can choose to get to know your brother, or you can choose not to, but that decision is yours, not mine. Maya looked at Jordan for a long moment. I don't know if I'm ready. That's okay, Jordan said. I've waited 37 years to have a family. I can wait a little longer for a sister. 6 months later, I sat on my back porch watching the sun rise over Boston. Coffee in hand, newspaper on the table beside me. Sunday morning. Peaceful. My phone buzzed. A text from Maya. Paid off first $12,000 of debt. Got promoted to junior analyst. Still hate my tiny apartment, but I'm making it work. Coffee next week? I smiled. Typed back. Proud of you, baby. Wednesday at 2? Perfect. Love you, Mama. Love you too. 6 months. Maya had moved into a $900 studio in Roxbury. Found a job at a tech startup for $48,000 a year, a massive pay cut from her Brennan Industries salary. Started therapy twice a week. Started paying off the $78,000 in personal debt I'd discovered she'd accumulated trying to keep up with the Whitfields. She was struggling, but she was learning. And slowly, carefully, she was becoming someone I barely recognized. Someone stronger. Someone real. The video of her wedding collapse had indeed gone viral. 5 million views. Hashtag Brennan Wedding Cake trended for 3 days. The business took a small hit. 3 board members called emergency meetings. 2 major clients got nervous. But I'd handled it. Gave one interview to the Boston Globe explaining that my daughter had struggled with anxiety and had made a terrible mistake, that we were focused on her recovery and mental health, and that Brennan Industries remained stable and profitable. Stock price had actually gone up. Apparently, investors liked a CEO who could handle family crisis and still close Q2 with 15% growth. The Whitfields had quietly annulled the marriage. Marcus had sent Maya a brief apology text 3 months later. I'm sorry I wasn't brave enough to stand up to my family. You deserved better. But he hadn't fought for her, hadn't defended her. In the end, Patricia Whitfield's opinion mattered more than his love. Maya had cried when she told me. But she'd also said, maybe it's better this way. I don't think I ever really loved him. I just loved what he represented. Progress. My phone buzzed again. Jordan this time, coming by around 11 with Simone. She wants to meet you properly. That okay? Simone. Jordan's girlfriend of 4 months. His studio assistant, a photographer in her own right. From Jordan's descriptions, she was funny, talented, and didn't take his brooding too seriously. I'd met her briefly at his studio, but this would be the first time she'd come to my house. Meeting the family. That felt significant. More than okay. I'll make lunch. Your grandmother's fried chicken? If you're lucky. We're lucky. See you at 11. I set the phone down and looked out at the garden. Thomas's garden, technically. He'd planted those roses 38 years ago, before everything fell apart. I'd kept them alive all these years. Pruning, watering, tending. Maybe I'd known on some level that he'd come back, or that something of him would. Lakeisha appeared at the back door, letting herself in like she'd done for 43 years. She carried 2 cappuccinos from the cafe down the street. "Morning," she said, handing me one. "You look peaceful." "I am peaceful." First time in months. She sat in the chair beside me. Maya texted me too, said she got promoted. "She's doing well?" "Better than well. She's doing the work." Lakeisha sipped her cappuccino. "You did the right thing, Anna, letting her fall like that. It was brutal, but necessary." "Sometimes I wonder," I admitted. "I watch that video sometimes, late at night. Watch my daughter collapse into that cake, confess everything, destroy her whole life in 60 seconds. And I think I could have stopped it. I could have grabbed that champagne glass, pulled her aside, prevented all of it. But you didn't." "No, I didn't. Because she needed to fall." "Yes." Lakeisha was quiet for a moment. "You know what I think? I think you gave Maya the greatest gift a mother can give. Accountability. You loved her enough to let her face the consequences of her actions. That's rare, Anna. Most parents, especially parents with your resources, would have covered it up, paid people off, made it go away." "I considered it," I admitted. "But you didn't. You let her fall. You let her fail. And now she's learning how to get back up on her own." Lakeisha raised her cappuccino. "That's not cruelty. That's wisdom." We sat in comfortable silence, watching the sun climb higher. At 11 a.m. exactly, Jordan's car pulled into the driveway. I stood, smoothed my dress, and walked to the door. Jordan got out first, then came around to open the passenger door. Simone emerged, tall, dark-skinned, natural hair and beautiful locks, carrying a bouquet of sunflowers. "Mrs. Brennan," she said, smiling. "Thank you for having me." "Call me Anna, please." I took the flowers. "And you're welcome anytime." Jordan kissed my cheek. "Hey, Anna. Still not Mom. Maybe one day, maybe never. But we were building something, and that was enough." We went inside. I showed Simone around the house while Jordan raided the refrigerator, completely at home in a way that made my heart swell. Around 2 p.m., as I was pulling the fried chicken from the oven, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. But the message made me smile. "Hi, this is Maya. This is Jordan's number, right? I was wondering if maybe we could talk sometime. No pressure, just coffee, if you want." I showed Jordan the text. He read it, then looked at me. "What should I say?" "Whatever you want. She's reaching out. That's her choice. What you do with it is yours." Jordan typed for a minute, then showed me his response. "Coffee sounds good? Wednesday at 3? There's a place in Cambridge I like. Café Algiers. The same place where Jordan and I had first met. Where we'd built our relationship one awkward coffee at a time. Full circle." Maya's response came immediately. "Perfect. See you then." Jordan slipped his phone into his pocket and helped me carry food to the table. Lakeisha had set places for 4. We sat, me at the head, Jordan on my right, Simone on my left, Lakeisha across from me. A family. Not the one I'd planned, not the one I'd expected, but the one I had. "Can I say grace?" Simone asked. "Please," I said. We held hands around the table, Jordan's hand in mine, rough, calloused from years of working with cameras. Strong. "Dear Lord," Simone said, "thank you for this food, for this family, and for second chances. Thank you for bringing people together in unexpected ways. Thank you for the courage to face hard truths and the wisdom to learn from our mistakes. Amen." "Amen," we echoed. As we ate, as conversation flowed, as laughter filled my house for the first time in months, I thought about that night 6 months ago. The champagne glasses, the choice I made, the moment I decided to swap them and let Maya drug herself instead. People had asked me since, Reporters, friends, even my therapist if I regretted it, if I wished I'd handled it differently. The answer was complicated. Did I regret watching my daughter collapse into her wedding cake in front of 300 people? Yes, that image would haunt me forever. Did I regret the consequences? The viral video, the destroyed marriage, the public humiliation? Yes, no mother wants that for her child. But did I regret teaching Maya that actions have consequences? That you can't poison people, literally or figuratively, and expect to walk away unscathed? No, because 6 months later I had my daughter back. Not the entitled, insecure woman who cared more about Patricia Whitfield's approval than her own mother's love, but the real Maya, the one who was learning to stand on her own, to value herself, to build something genuine. I had Jordan, my firstborn, the son I never knew, building a relationship with me, with his sister, with this strange patchwork family we were creating. And I had peace. At 65 years old, I'd learned that love isn't about protecting people from pain. It's about standing beside them while they face it. Justice isn't always loud and dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's a mother swapping champagne glasses and letting nature take its course. And family isn't always the one you're born into. Sometimes it's the one you build, piece by piece, relationship by relationship, Sunday dinner by Sunday dinner. After lunch, we moved to the back porch. Jordan showed Simone the garden. Lakeisha and I sat with fresh coffee, watching them. "You did good, Anna," Lakeisha said quietly. "We'll see," I said. "The story's not over yet." "No, but this chapter is. And it's a good one. I thought about that. About chapters and stories and endings and beginnings. You know what the strangest part is?" I said. "What?" "I'm grateful. For all of it. For Thomas calling me before he died. For finding Jordan. For Maya overhearing that conversation and spiraling into panic. For every painful, terrible moment that led us here." I looked at my son, laughing with his girlfriend in the garden. "Because without all that pain, I wouldn't have this." "That's wisdom," Lakeisha said. "Hard won, but wisdom nonetheless." My phone buzzed one more time. "Maya, thank you, Mama, for not giving up on me, for loving me enough to let me fall. I'm not there yet, but I'm trying. I love you." I typed back with tears in my eyes. "I love you too, baby. I'm proud of you. See you Wednesday." I set the phone down and looked out at my garden, my house, my family. At 65 years old, I'd built an empire. $40 million. A company that employed 300 people. A reputation that commanded respect in boardrooms across New England. But none of that mattered as much as this moment. This porch. This family. This peace. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. But I learned something different. Justice is a lesson best taught with love. And sometimes, the greatest victory is simply letting go. The sun climbed higher over Boston. Jordan called me over to see something in the garden. Thomas's roses, blooming for the first time in years. I stood, walked to my son, slipped my arm through his. "Your father would be proud," I said. "Of these roses, of you, of all of this." "You think so?" "I know so." We stood there together, mother and son, looking at flowers that had survived 38 years of neglect and somehow bloomed anyway. Proof that some things, no matter how long they're buried, eventually find their way to the light.